leaders. There are some more cows and beavers, I think, with the Sunday school, and they'll be coming in a little bit later. I tried to make a sermon that's based on one of the principles that Lord Robert Baden-Powell believed in, and that was the principle that one human being is capable of having a huge and positive influence on a very great number of other people around them. We know that's the case in Lord Baden-Powell's life, because though he only founded the Scout movement in 1907, when he had the first Scout rally in 1908 in London, England, over 10,000 Boy Scouts showed up. Rather a phenomenal story of one person reaching out and changing the lives of many others. And what I want to say to all of you in the sermon today is this: you have the power within you to change the life of every person whom you meet. In fact, whether you like it or not, you are changing everyone every time you see them and every time you speak to them. So I want to encourage you with that today, and particularly encourage you to be sure that your influence is good and positive and healing and uplifting. We start the sermon out in a strange place today, perhaps 3,500 years ago, when Moses stands before the troops of Israel, preparing them for battle. Now, war is always a last resort, and I don't want to look at this passage as a preparation for war, but rather as a preparation for every challenge in your life and every challenge that we as a congregation face. What Moses says in Deuteronomy 8 is really powerful and significant, and also kind of strange. He says that before you go to war, the priest should come out and say to the troops, if any of you have just built a house and your house has not yet been blessed, you may go home. If any of you have a vineyard and have not yet harvested your grapes, you may go home. And if any of you is engaged to be married, you can go home. Kind of a strange thing, sending all the soldiers home before the war begins. However, we realize later that it is implied for those people who go home to bless their house or tend their vineyard or to be married, they're all supposed to come back once they have done that and then join in the battle. Moses was a great psychologist, and he understood that by letting those men go back and make their commitment or fulfill their stake in the community, when they came back into the army, they would have something to fight for. And a person with something to fight for or something to defend is 10 or 100 times more powerful than someone who has no stake in the outcome. But it's the fourth class of people that I find fascinating. Moses says that before a battle, you must say to all the soldiers, if any of you are afraid, if anyone here has lost their nerve, you may go home and don't come back. And you think, it's kind of counterproductive. You're saying to your army, if you're afraid, if you've lost your nerve, you don't have to fight. You go back home and stay there and don't worry about it. And you think, well, my goodness, what if half the soldiers said, I've lost my nerve? Well, Moses was pretty smart. And what Moses understood was this: if you're trying to do something, if you're trying to accomplish some great goal, and you have one person in your midst who is frightened or has lost their nerve, they will contaminate or infect or destroy the morale of the whole community with their doubts and their fears. Wherever they go, they will be planting the seed of fearfulness or timidity or distrust in all the people around them. So Moses says, if you've lost your nerve, go home. He understood it was better to lose half your army. He understood that 10 people who were courageous and committed would accomplish more than 1,000 people who were contaminated by the seed or the sickness of fear or distrust. What Moses knew was this: all of us have the power to influence the people around us and change the way in which they think. He saw that we all had a spirit flowing through us, a spirit that touched everyone around us and changed how they thought. What kind of a spirit goes out from you? I want to move from that little negative example of a destructive spirit to something much more positive and happy, and that is the idea of the Spirit that flows out of Jesus Christ and flows into each of us and can flow through any one of us into the world around. By the time Mark sat to write the gospel reading that we read this morning, the story of the transfiguration of Christ, about 3 or 4 decades had passed since Christ's death, and stories had built up about Jesus, about who he was, stories which expressed what the early church believed Jesus to be. And within the context of Mark's gospel, they are all the stories about a human being through whom flows this incredible power. Mark frames all the stories of Christ's miracles in terms of a spirit flowing through him, and he says to his audience, what is this spirit and this power that flows through Jesus? You know what the Spirit is.